welcome back. In today's video, we've got a news and rumor video here to discuss. In today's video, we're looking at some signings for our past couple of days, some injury updates, some small pieces of news, and we've got some trade rumors involving the Red Wings, the Panthers, the Flames, and a couple of other teams. We'll touch on all this coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the End-to-End Hockey channel. Now before we get into this video, do not forget to like this video and subscribe down below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to with all of you guys, so if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to leave a comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We're trying to hit 675 subscribers by the March 6th trade deadline. That's less than 2 weeks away, so if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button down below. It really does help with the channel. Don't forget to stay tuned for videos coming in the very near future. If you haven't already, check out my Buy Me a Coffee page. There's a link to it down in the description below. You can make a donation. It helps out the channel. I would really appreciative of it. So check it out. And if it's within your means, make a donation. And don't forget to stay tuned for my March 6th live trade deadline video talking about all that happens on March 6th on trade deadline day. So stay tuned for that at 11:30 p.m. Mountain Time if you can. But in today's video, we've got another news and rumor video here to discuss. Now, we're going to have one of these videos basically every day leading up to the trade deadline. So I'm going to have a news and rumor video every day from Monday to Saturday this week. I'm not going to have one on Sunday, and then from Monday to Thursday next week before the trade deadline. So I'm going to take a news and rumor video every morning and post it at some point during the day. So stay tuned because we're going to have a lot of news and rumors to talk about over the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. But in today's video, we're going to start off by looking at a signing from our past couple of days. Only one signing, wasn't a huge one, and it was with the Chicago Blackhawks as they signed UFA goaltender Oliver Rodrigue. Now, Rodrigue was not qualified last year by the Edmonton Oilers. Actually had some pretty good AHL numbers over the past couple of years, but the Oilers felt like they need to go in a different direction when it comes to the third stringer, so they let him go. I think he went over to the KHL or overseas somewhere. He had his contract terminated, so he was a UFA. The Hawks, they have had some goalie issues this year. Not because anyone's been bad, but after they traded Laurent Brossoit, Soderblom and Knight both went down with injuries, and it really did derail the team a little bit because they really had no clear-cut third stringer. So Rodrigue can come in, he can be that fall third stringer. He's 25 years old. He's got a one-year deal for the rest of this year at an AAV of $775,000. So like I said, it's a interesting signing. Rodrigue hasn't had much experience playing this year, but still, I think he can be a serviceable third or fourth stringer, and it does give the Hawks a little bit more added goaltending depth, which is something I think they desperately need after they traded Brossoit, I think it was last month. So very interesting note there, very interesting signing here from the Hawks. This also is the only waiver update from our past couple of days, but the Hawks did place Rodrigue on waivers because they recently signed him. They need him to go to the AHL, so you need to be placed on waivers if you want that to happen. Now, he was recently just signed. He's the third stringer at the AHL level, so I definitely did think there was no teams who were going to claim him off of waivers, and that is what happened. Rodrigue cleared waivers, so not too surprising there, given the fact that any NHL team had a chance to sign him. So he clears waivers and he'll go play with Rockford in the AHL. So very interesting note there. But Rodrigue gets a new deal with the Chicago Blackhawks, and the Hawks do add some more goalie depth. So very interesting note there. Next, we're going to a couple of injury updates. So first, when it comes to the Buffalo Sabres, Zach Benson is not expected back this week from his undisclosed injury. Now, he had missed a couple of games leading into the Olympic break due to that undisclosed injury. There was some potential hope that he could be back when the Sabres were back from their Olympic break, but that will not be the case, as Zach Benson will continue to deal with his undisclosed injury beyond this week, so not great news there for Buffalo. John Beecher and Blake Coleman, who both missed over a month with upper body injuries, have both been active off of injury reserve and return to game action when the Flames get back from their Olympic break. So really good news there. Coleman is going to be a name to watch out for during the trade deadline because he's one of their biggest trade pieces, so to get him back is pretty good. And John Beecher's been a pretty decent bottom six forward since being claimed off of waivers from Boston earlier in the year, so good to see that both those guys will be back for the Flames when they get back into game action. However, Martin Pospisil, player for the Calgary Flames, missed the bronze medal game in the Olympics for Slovakia due to an undisclosed injury, so hopefully it's nothing too serious. as Pospisil is a pretty good middle six forward and missed time this year due to injuries. So we shall wait and see, but there's a possibility Pospisil could miss some time for the Calgary Flames. Henrique should be active off of injury reserve and good to go for the Oilers after missing 6 weeks with an undisclosed injury. So that could be a really big boost there for the Oilers to get a solid veteran middle six forward, bomb six forward, and Henrique back when they get back in game action, which would be huge. However, Kasperi Kapanen has an undisclosed injury and may miss a few games after the Oilers get back from their Olympic break. So not great news there, as the Oilers may have some injury problems with Kasperi Kapanen. Mikko Rantanen, who was injured against Slovakia in the semifinal game, missed the bronze medal game for the Finnish team, so that's not great news there. They were listing him as day-to-day with the lower body injury, but there was some concern it could be a little bit longer term. So we shall wait and see what happens there. It's not season ending for sure, but Rantanen could miss a couple of games for the All-Star, so that's not overly great news there. Sidney Crosby missed the gold medal game for Team Canada in the Olympics. Now that's awful because Crosby's Canada's captain. They lost 2-1 in overtime yesterday. It could have been a big help for Team Canada, so not great news there. And it would take a big injury to keep Crosby out of the gold medal game, so I do wonder if this could be an injury that could keep him at least a couple of weeks for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So we'll have to wait and see on that, but that is bad there for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then the Winnipeg Jets, Josh Morrissey missed the gold medal game with upper body injury as well. So he hadn't played, I think, since the first or second group stage game for the Canadiens, which is not overly good. And it seems like he might miss a little bit of time for the Winnipeg Jets, which would not be overly good for the Jets' battered blue line right now. So very interesting note there. But Morrissey, Crosby, some of the other guys are still dealing with injuries from the Olympics. So very interesting note there, and hopefully they all make speedy recoveries. Those are the injury updates from the past couple of days. Just going over to a couple of quick recalls and reassignments. So when it comes to some recalls, Metsa in Buffalo, Spashik, Kachuk and Gleason in Minnesota, LaRue and Wood in Nashville, Jennings in Philadelphia, Leddy in San Jose, Sewsbury and Connaughton in Utah were all recalled by their NHL clubs. Very interesting note there. I wonder if any of these guys will get some NHL playing time. Still very interesting note there that those guys were all recalled. Well, when it comes to some reassignments, Kolosov in Philadelphia, Bicetta in San Jose, Peronovich in Utah, and DeVincentis in Winnipeg were all reassigned, so not too surprising there. Those guys were most likely not going to be playing at the NHL level anyways. So very interesting note there, but those are some very interesting recalls and reassignments from over the past couple of days. A couple of quick news updates here. New Mexico will be the new ECHL affiliate for the Colorado Avalanche. So I think they had Utah as their ECHL affiliates this year, but it sounds like next year they will have New Mexico, which I think is an expansion team if I'm correct. So very interesting note there, but Colorado is switching ECHL affiliates for the upcoming season. So very interesting note there. It's not too significant to the Colorado Avalanche, but it is a very interesting note there that they will have a new ECHL affiliate. Meanwhile, when it comes to this Buffalo Sabres and Alex Tuch, according to Dave Pagnotta, they're currently not close on an extension. Now, it seems like it's less and less likely over the past couple of weeks that Alex Tuch will get dealt, even if an extension is not in place, because the Sabres want to make the playoffs and Tuch is a big part of that team. So even if they have to use him as their own rental teams, they might be okay with it. But they do really want to make signing him a priority. So they're going to try and sign him before the trade deadline for sure. But this doesn't sound like anything's close according to Pagnotta. It sounds like Tuch wants $10+ million, potentially close to Kempe's $10.6 million. And I'm pretty sure the Sabres probably want something closer to like $8 or $9 million. So I don't think it's too surprising that they're far apart in the contracts. But it's going to be very interesting out there, because I do think that the Sabres really want to sign Tuch, but I'm not sure if they trade him even if they aren't able to sign him. So very interesting note there, but those were some small pieces of news from the past couple of days. And lastly, going over to a couple of trade rumors. So we got 3 trade rumors here to talk about. We're going to start off with the Ottawa Senators. According to Bruce Garrioch, he says that the Senators' top priority entering the trade deadline this year is adding a top-end right-shot defenseman. Now, we've talked about how the Senators, even though they're not in a playoffs right now, are going to be buyers. They do not have their first-round pick for this year, so tanking makes no sense if you're the Ottawa Senators. So it seems they're going to try and buy and push for a playoff spot, which I think they can. They've had good marches in the past, and on top of that, Allmark's back, so they could be getting competent goaltending again, which is the thing that this team has been missing all season long. So if the Senators can get competent goaltending and they start to go on a run in March, I could definitely see them push for a playoff spot. Now, it seems like the top priority is on the blue line. We've talked about how they could look to add a top 6 forward and a top 4 defenseman, but it seems like at this point in time, time, a defenseman seems to be the priority for the Ottawa Senators. Now, I'm not exactly sure who they could try and target here. There's been a lot of talk about Weegar, but I think he's a left shot defenseman or a left-handed defenseman. I'm not sure if he's a right side defenseman, but he can't play on the right side at least. You do have a couple of pending UFAs, such as guys like Andrew Peeke or Connor Murphy, who could actually be pretty decent second pair defensemen for the Ottawa Senators or third pair defensemen. Guys with term who have been mentioned as potentially being out there would be a guy like Dougie Hamilton. Could he be a good interest on like the Senators second pair? Justin Falk seems that there's a lot of interest in him, so I'm not sure if the Senators could outbid a couple of other teams, but could there be interest in him? Rasmus Ristolainen, he's got a year left on his deals, really solid second pair right shot defenseman. Could that be an interesting possibility? I could definitely see that. There's also been some talk about Braden Schneider. What about him? He's a pending RFA. He could grow with the team. Sure, they'd have to sign him to an extension, but that could be another very interesting option. So there are right shot defenseman options out there. Timothy Liljegren's another one in San Jose. So I'm not exactly sure which route they're going to go. Are they going to go with someone who's younger, can be cost controlled? Are they going to go with someone with a couple of years left on their deal? Are they going to go for a pending UFA? Like, I'm not exactly sure, but it does seem like the Senators' top priority right now is adding a top-end right shot defenseman. So we should wait and see on that, but keep your eye on the Senators adding on the blue line before this year's trade deadline. Next, going over to Bruce Garrioch, sticking with him, he was talking about the Detroit Red Wings, and he said that the Red Wings have expressed some interest in acquiring Flames defenseman Mackenzie Weegar. Now, that's not too surprising. We've talked about Weegar with the Senators quite a bit, as we just mentioned. But the Red Wings are another very interesting team who may have some serious interest in Weegar. He's a top four defenseman, which is something this Red Wings team does lack. They have Edvinsson, they have Sider, and Schrott's not been terrible in the top four this year, but those are really your only three really good defensemen. Like, you got Johansson, who's starting to get in there. You got Axel Sandin-Pellikka, who's starting to get acclimated to the NHL, but you don't have a clear-cut top four veteran defenseman with experience. So that would be where Weegar would come in. The Wings have the cap space to bring him in. The Wings do have some pretty good assets that I think they could try and tempt Calgary with to make some sort of a deal. That makes a ton of sense. Like, I think Weegar in Detroit would be a great fit for the Red Wings because I do think it could really round out that D-core. Like, you put Weegar maybe with Edmondson, you have a top four of Weegar, Edmondson, and Sider Sherratt. Like, that's not a terrible top four for a Red Wings team that isn't a playoff spot right now. So I'm not going to say it's a guarantee because Weegar does have some trade protection. He is signed for a long time, and there's no guarantees at this point that there's been any indication the Flames are completely open to moving him. But it does sound like Weegar's name is at least out there, and the Flames are feeling calls for him. And if the Red Wings can pony up a big enough asking price, I wouldn't be shocked if Weegar could be landing in Detroit before this year's trade deadline. So I have to wait and see on that. But Red Wings do need some defensive help, and it seems like they have had some interest in the last little bit in Mackenzie Weegar, so we should wait and see on that. And lastly, here going over to Jeff Marek, he was talking about the Florida Panthers and the San Jose Sharks. And he says that the Florida Panthers' best trade chip right now on their current team, if they were to go down the selling route, is Sergei Bobrovsky. Now, that is a very, very, very interesting take. Bobrovsky has just led the Panthers to back-to-back Cup wins and 3 straight Cup final appearances. So he's been the backbone of this team. Now, I know he's a pending UFA. Personally, in my opinion, I do not think the Panthers will trade him. I think they will find a way to sign him to like a 1 or 2 year extension, lower AAV, to sort of keep him as their starter. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year, but this team, if they get healthier and they shut down a few guys and they sort of rest this offseason, I could see them go push for a playoff spot again next year. The Panthers are a really good team. But moving on from Bobrovsky would be very, very interesting. Bobrovsky is a really solid goaltender, probably a top 10 goaltender in the entire NHL right now. He's been really good with the Florida Panthers. But if the Panthers are going down the seller route, it would make sense that he's their best trade chip because he's a pending UFA. And besides their other pending UFAs like a Greer or a Kunin, or I think Balinskis might be a pending UFA too, they do not have a ton of really elite level pending UFAs. So it would make sense that Bobrovsky would be their best trade chip. But according to Marek, he wonders if a landing spot, if the Panthers do wind up dealing Bobrovsky, could be the San Jose Sharks. Now that's an interesting one. The Edmonton Oilers, I'm not sure if they'd be interested in Bobrovsky after they acquired Tristan Jarry. There's been some small talk about if Bobrovsky is available. Maybe Montreal has some interest because they don't have great goaltending, but I'm not sure if the Panthers really want to trade in division with the Montreal Canadiens to trade their starting goaltender to the Habs. But the Sharks are a very interesting team. They've got two goaltenders on their contract right now. That is Askarov, who is the team's future and is having himself a pretty good season this year in San Jose, and Nedeljkovic, who they acquired in the offseason from the Pittsburgh Penguins, who's been a serviceable 1B sort of goaltender. But you have Bobrovsky, that takes a lot of weight off of Askarov for the rest of this year. Bobrovsky can mentor Askarov, and Bobrovsky could be the team starter. Now, there's no guarantees at this point in time that the Sharks do end up making the playoffs, so moving assets for a penny UFA goaltender might not be the smartest move for the San Jose Sharks. But if they do have Bobrovsky, like, you gotta think they make a playoff push at that point. So, like, it's a very interesting concept. I think they would only be able to get like a second round pick and a pretty good prospect for Bobrovsky, because unlike forwards and defensemen, goaltenders don't have the same value as some of those other guys. So I don't think you get a huge return for Sergei Bobrovsky. But still, like, if the Panthers retain a little bit of money, or the Sharks, I don't even think they need to retain money. But that could be a very interesting concept there, to see Bobrovsky go to San Jose. And I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Panthers will find some way to extend him before the free agency hits next year. And I don't think he'll get dealt, but if the Sharks need some goaltending help, maybe they can look at Florida and try and pry the Panthers' potentially best trade chip out of the Florida Panthers organization. So definitely, we'll have to wait and see on that. Personally, I do not think Bobrovsky is sell, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on all these things down in the comment section below. Do the Panthers move Bobrovsky, and could San Jose be a landing spot? Could the Red Wings acquire Mackenzie Weegar and do the Senators add a top-end right-shot defenseman before this year's trade deadline? Therefore, your thoughts on all of that, plus all the news updates, signings, injuries, all the other stuff down in the comment section below. That's all I'm going to talk about for today. Remember to like this video, and if you're looking to subscribe below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to with all of you guys, so if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Don't forget to stay tuned for videos coming out in the very near future. I also do a blog, talk about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that, so check that out. I'll link to that in the description below. If you haven't already, check out my Buy Me a Coffee page, link in the description below. If you can make a donation, really does help with the channel. That's all I'm going to talk about in this video. I can't wait to see you guys all for the next one. See you guys soon.